There are so many aspects of the Cape Cod economy that she could talk for hours on the subject. So we're going to change the format a little bit this time. Rather than having like a 40-minute presentation, she has a few slides she'll present to talk about the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, the Blue Economy Foundation, and a couple of their projects they're working on, one related to MIT. And then after that, she's going to spend the rest of the time in order to take your questions. So I hope you all came prepared with, what's happening with the bridges and what's happening with, the high-tech companies down near Woodsville, et cetera. And she should have all the answers for you. So without further ado, I give you Katy Acheson.
Okay. Who is this girl? NOSIC grad. I went to Cape Cod Community College for a year, which is the best decision I ever made because I did not know which way was up. Then I went to UMass Amherst, UMass Dartmouth. I have a business leads fellowship and management training from US Chamber, and I'm currently in Institute for Nonprofit. And I chose these pictures because, we met Bill Nye and with some representatives, and I'm most excited to be holding a shark tooth. So that's me, excited to hold a shark relic. I'm just going to start high level with the Cape Cod Chamber. This is our essentially our internal org chart. And what I wanted to do for you to understand my role. So the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce is the umbrella organization for the Blue Economy Foundation, which is our focus today, the Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative, the Cape Cod Economic Development Council, Inc., and a new organization called Cape Tide, which will be launching in January. I run all three of those. So I'm running 3 organizations under the chamber. And like I said, today we're going to focus on the Blue Economy Foundation, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the scope of the work that the Chamber of Commerce does. We are a regional economic development organization. We are a destination marketing organization. And we also run business development, and anyone who's, it's a little hard to see, but we also are the umbrella organization for the staff of the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce. So there's a lot going on in-house. Anyone that wants to come up and readjust these slides to make them crisper for you or whatever, but I will share them so you'll have access to them after. I'm not going to go through all this. Mission is to make the economy better, make the lives of the people better. We'll talk a little bit about the mission of the Blue Economy Foundation. So when we say blue economy, we're talking about water, right? We're talking about our ocean, and oftentimes you'll hear ocean economy and blue economy used interchangeably. Does anyone know how many ponds we have on Cape Cod?
35.
There's about 350 that have names, but there's about 900 plus kettle ponds. Really? Have you ever driven from one side of the Cape to the other without seeing a pond? They're everywhere. And sometimes puddles get big enough that we call those ponds. Right? And so when we talk about blue economy, we mean our ocean economy. We also mean our river and freshwater and cranberry bog economy. Right? So the economy part of it is supporting business and improving the quality of life while focusing on protecting and promoting our coastal resources and our water. Fancy transition. I just read you that. So some key focus areas, and this is really how I delineate my work, is we do a lot of education and workforce development. I'll talk a little bit more about that and some of the programs we do. Industry identity. This is what you're going to understand at the end of our conversation today. And then healthy ecosystems and healthy economy go hand in hand. We talk about blue economy businesses on the Cape. There are, when I last checked, over 20,000 businesses on Cape Cod. And right now we're doing some work in data and analysis to identify what percentage of those are dark and medium blue. Our previous report in 2017 is available, and we cataloged about 11 to 12% of our businesses are categorized as the medium and dark blue, so these two. And so this is just a way of a self-assessment for those businesses. I'm going to try to move around so I'm not in one person's way the whole time. And we didn't bring a clicker, I apologize. So dark blue businesses would not exist without proximity to the water. So examples of those would be a yacht club, right? A beach resort, Hui, these are some examples of those kinds of places, right? Medium blue, stronger because of their proximity to the water, not necessarily reliant, but if you have a luxury hotel, you're going to do a lot better business and weddings on the water than you are away from it, okay? You can ask questions about this as I go if you're like, wait, what a minute? Like, what's light blue? An ice cream shop. Alberto's light blue. We had a question about waterworks already. Tom came prepared, gave me his questions on paper. So this is an example of our workforce development. So every year we go to the college, we partner with the STEM department, and we invite all of our all of our high school juniors and seniors from across the Cape and Islands to come engage one-on-one with professionals and careers in the blue economy and STEM. These are just some of my favorite pictures, and kind of demonstrates a little bit about what the scope of the career options on Cape Cod really look like, and the education opportunities. So of course, sharks, right? To wake everyone up after lunch, sharks, yay, right? A growing economy on Cape Cod around ecotourism has a lot to do with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. So I'll plug them for a future speaker. They'd be a good one. Robotics education, this group, Tech Ed, their whole role in their system of education is to match robotics and software to curriculum that already exists in the schools. So they're a matchmaker, and they're really fun to have at events because they bring robot dogs with them. Love, love, love. And so Waterworks will be January 16th. Yeah, go. Tech Ed products. Happy to make a connection to you with them. Really, really fun. As an education. Yep. So Waterworks will be January 16th. We invite our 13th, oh my gosh, sorry, January 13th, 2026. And that is at the college. We invite our schools to come attend. So our students come in the morning, and then we open it up to the public 1:30 to 3:30. So anyone that is interested in meeting some of these organizations, getting to know a little bit more about the career opportunities on the Cape for young people, 1:30 to 3:30 on that day, and I'll make sure that there's a flyer we can share after this talk. The Big Blue Conference, named after a joke that my boss made, and then I turned it into the actual conference, and it works. So this is our industry conference. This is where we start to build our actual blue economy identity by bringing people together for a couple of days to talk about what they're working on and connect them to one another. So an example of a result of this particular conference, I like to make people I like to get the hairs on the back of people's necks up a little bit. I find it engaging. And so we had the Fishermen's Alliance and offshore wind companies together at our first conference. And some of you were like, what was she thinking? What ended up happening as a result of that in 2023 is that the Fishermen's Alliance and the offshore wind companies started to talk together and started to work together because I smushed them together on a tiny stage. And everyone's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. I'm like, yay, let's do it. We talked about horseshoe crabs last year, which can get really controversial. People get really itchy about that. And so it's a really, really interesting way to just bring different people together to have conversations. And I really like planning those kinds of events. I put up some pictures here of some relevance, some folks from Falmouth Public Schools that we're working with now on some K through 12 curriculum. Vex robot competition that we organized to hold in the baggage claim department at the airport. So we invited some students to come have a battle at the airport. And there were kids with their Lego robots going up and down the airport in Hyannis here, having the time of their lives. It was really fun. So promoting STEM, bringing industry together, giving people opportunities to speak about what they do. I'm not going to talk too much about this. We have interns, we do business development. This group here are a group of J1 students. I can answer questions about those if it comes up. This is just a list of collaborators. There's plenty up there. We collaborate with everyone. And I swear the C on our keyboards is going to run out. It's just wild. So this is the 2017 report that I mentioned before. So these are some of the numbers. These are the stats from 2017. Like I said, we're going to be publishing something in early 2026 with an update of these numbers. So we're telling a little bit of an outdated narrative, and a lot has happened since 2017. But these are some of the statistics about the job market. So the blue economy, as we've defined it in 2017, is a 1.4 billion gross profit revenue generating industry on Cape Cod annually. We assume right now that's about the same, but we'll have those numbers soon. That's 118 different industry clusters. 12% of our employees on Cape Cod are in dark or medium blue roles, and about 11% of our overall economy. Pretty impressive. This is like impossible for you to see. But this is a sample of, if someone wants to get nerdy and come see it on the screen, but this is just an example of the kind of data that we're seeking and the kind of storytelling that we're seeing. So essentially what this is marinas, jobs in Barnstable County and Plymouth County. And what we've seen is a lot of movement. An increase from 2017 of 39 jobs in marinas in Barnstable County and 37 fewer in Plymouth County. So it's just a really neat example of how data can show us some movement. And then we can start to take that data and that movement and try to find the narrative. What happened in Plymouth that those folks moved to some other place? Did they move here? So it gives us some insight into what the mysteries are that we can start to solve. Another way that we start to identify narratives is by listening to others. So Wavemakers is a free employer listening session that we're holding with the community college now. We were going to do it twice a year. I think it's going to turn into 4 times a year. And essentially what we did was we just asked our employers in coastal employment jobs, so marinas, harbor masters, we had some recreational boating professionals, and we just gave them the opportunity to complain. How many of you are from New England? How much do you just love to complain? We're so good at it. And it's a really, really incredible way to get conversations started. So what we did with this group is let them identify challenges with entry-level employment opportunities that they see. What are the barriers? What are the challenges? What are students missing as skills when they leave school? And then what are the barriers for them to actually make a living on Cape Cod? And then we transform it into opportunities. And one of the opportunities is working with K-12 curriculum development with all of our public schools to identify what are they teaching, how does that compare to what the skills gaps are that our employers are looking for, and give us at the Cape Cod Chamber and the Blue Economy Foundation a space to play in. Say, okay, there's some missing skills here. We can develop training, bring training, or highlight training that already exists, because there's a lot of training available that's not taken advantage of. So this is the K-12 curriculum. We've got another picture of Bill Nye with our intern Nick, who learned to tie his own bow tie to meet Bill Nye, which is like the cutest thing ever. How many people in the room know who Bill Nye is? Okay, good, just checking. Because there's like a weird generational gap between the people that saw Bill Nye on TV and now all the kids that watch Bill Nye on YouTube. But there's like a weird sort of like the Pokemon generation that don't care about Bill Nye for some reason. You know the Pokemon generation. You know exactly who I mean, right? They don't know Bill Nye. Oh, they know Pokemon, which is crazy. So we're working with students, teachers through their curriculum to identify what are they learning that is in Blue Economy. And a big challenge, and we've really just sort of started this, I'm giving myself another 1.5 years to identify what these training opportunities are, is defining what is a Blue Economy lesson. What are we teaching? Because to get a job, it's not just about knowing how to read a tide chart. You also have to know how to communicate with people. And you have to know how to paint or to pull or to compose an email or pick up the phone. Like there's so many skills involved. So we're trying to identify through a lot of surveying with what is missing, what's being taught, could it be taught within our public schools? This is a hunt for an opportunity, essentially, and that's why I'm giving myself a long time, because we know that there's stuff missing, but where's the piece that we can fill in? And that's the role that the chamber has been able to take opportunities for, and I myself have been able to take up as opportunities. Someone submitted a question ahead of time about aquatic robotics in high schools. Is that person here? Can you elaborate on that question?
So we're currently rolling out into our K-12 a curriculum that we're calling Sea Jelly. We're under contract by the Office of Naval Research to develop an aquatic robot that mimics the look and feel of a jellyfish. So what really is the important thing is not so much the end product, which is the jellyfish itself, but it's really the skills, the career connecting skills that go along with the development of it. So along that path, we're teaching young students how to use 3D printing, mold making, working with silicon, soldering, computer programming. So these are all the skills that are going to be required for blue technology, and that's what we're most excited about. So that's why I was asking about tech ed and making that connection. We'd like to start to bring to our local high schools the opportunity to provide a student the challenge of being able to design, develop, test, and use a bio-inspired robot.
What school are you working with?
Currently we're in the Boston Public Schools, and then we're going to bring that to the Cape.
What a cool opportunity. Especially, I love the jellyfish vibe. That's really, really fun. So I didn't go around and ask all the different schools what they're doing for aquatic robotics, but I do know that there's a fun story out of Falmouth High School. This is actually a submersible that they created in partnership with Hui. And it was autonomous. It was meant to follow current, and it was meant to go on something like a year or 18-month journey. And it went on a journey. It went on one that they weren't expecting. There's a really great article about the story. They were expecting to be able to have the class that built it be able to retrieve it and retrieve the data, but the robot decided to take its time and go a little bit further. It didn't get lost, but it got lost enough that it took a while for it to get back. So that is the kind of story that we're actually going to hear in more detail from some of the students involved at the Big Blue Conference in April 2026. And so we have opportunities on the Cape. We have organizations and technology and professionals that do this kind of work, that we can bring them into the schools, or we can bring the students out of the schools into the workplace. And especially if there are organizations and groups that are working on curriculum development that have these kinds of components to them, that's exactly where we want to matchmake. We want to bring you into the school where the students have interest. And I think Falmouth is a really fabulous opportunity for something like that. So some friends of ours from the community college were invited, but they're teaching today. So I wanted to do a little plug for this program called Tech Amp, and they'll be much better at explaining it to you if you want to reach out to them. Does anybody know about Tech Amp already? Because I told you. That's cheating. So the way I understood what they were talking about, and there's a couple of other slides about it, is there are, let's see if this one describes it a little bit better. So some core concepts that are involved in the teaching. This is a program through MIT to some community colleges, and Cape Cod Community College is one of the pilot spaces. And the outcome, bless you, is they're trying to find this professional knowledge space between labor manufacturing and engineering. As robotics, technology AI start to develop, to be a labor manufacturer, you have to be able to communicate and work with the machines at a different level. Oh, spark, spark. And so the program is designed to help the folks that are already in the labor market to advance to an attainable knowledge level of working with more complex robotics in the manufacturing space. So instead of telling someone, you can only do this job if you are an engineer, which is a barrier for some people, right? Emotionally more than anything else. You're taking folks that are already in the labor force and you're skilling them up to be able to work in more complex structural engagement in manufacturing. Because manufacturing isn't going to continue to be, single action movements over and over again, right? Those days are gone. You have one person who's overseeing a line of robots doing the work, right? And you have to be able to communicate with them. So that's my pedestrian understanding of this program. You're welcome. We'll make sure that they answer the questions. But the real key of it is giving people that are already working an opportunity to learn and advance within their industry, which I think is really, really extraordinary. So technologist advanced manufacturing curriculum. So this program is being, like I said, piloted at Cape Cod Community College for people in the workforce. This is some of their scheduling, more of their scheduling. That's sort of like the big pieces of the presentation. I'm going to go through the last couple really quickly and then just let it open up to you of stuff that I'm prepared to talk about. And you can surprise me with questions and I'll just sort of defer you to the best person that isn't me to talk about that with. So this phrase really resonates with a lot of people, I think, on Cape Cod. Our environment is our economy. Why do people come here? Because it's beautiful. Right? The bagels are good, but we're here because it's beautiful, right? Come to live here, come to visit here. And so what's really, really extraordinary is people come to get away from other people in the millions. Isn't that something? Have you ever thought about that? Look at all those people on the beach. They think they're alone. It's really beautiful. There's solitude here, even when there are millions of people here. We get 5 million visitors a year. Most of them come May through October. That's a lot of people. No wonder we need new bridges. And a lot of our economic opportunities and entrepreneurship are born out of that experiential vacation tourist mindset, right? Tours, there are now tours, there's dune tours, there's someone that will take you out and teach you how to watercolor while on a boat off of the coast of Provincetown. What? And drink wine, probably. He seems like a wine guy. There are, right, there are walking tours, there are fishing tours, there are whale watches, there are shark watches, there's everything, right? It's really, really extraordinary how much people are willing to do to be part of the space around them, right? And to engage with the space around them. We take that for granted a little bit. Some of our tourism data, big numbers. This is 2024, and this is our impact in the tourism economy. And I think this gives you a pretty good sense of how many people are engaged in just the tourism economy alone. 14,000 people employed because of visitors. That's kind of extraordinary. That's a whole town on Cape Cod. A question had come up about impact of tariffs on travel. This is a little bit of travel data. So this specific data is a really reliable one. And this is actually hotel motel occupancy. So this is the percentage of rooms that are occupied in a given period. And I apologize that it's counterintuitive. 2025 is over here and 2018 is over here. So they're kind of backwards. So I apologize. So this dip as your reference point is 2020. Me and Excel had a moment together where we just had to like just go with this. I'm sure one of you knows like the keystrokes to change it, but I wanted to demonstrate this because I think it gives a really good sense of the stability of our tourism market in all kinds of wild situations. There's a couple of dips on here. We all remember, I think, what happened in 2020, right? How many of you remember the weather from 2023? Pretty abysmal, right? It was the second rainiest summer on record for Boston. And we're basically Boston's arm, right? And there's a dip. More so than there's a dip because of potential lack of Canadian visitors. So we have 59.5% versus 59.3%. Not a huge difference, but the rain can make as much a difference as anything else. Isn't that something?
That's a dip in what?
Hotel and motel occupancy. That's why we tell people it doesn't rain on the weekends on Cape Cod. But they caught us in our lie in 2023. So I put that together because I think it is a really interesting marker of our stability, even amongst political turmoil, change. Who comes to Cape Cod? What kind of people come to Cape Cod? All kinds of families is a huge one, right? You can drive here with a car full and kayaks and bikes and trailers and everything, right? And you can stay in all kinds of different places. This chart, and I didn't pull it up, but it probably looks quite different for somewhere, say like Martha's Vineyard, where the prices keep getting higher and higher. It's a little bit more exclusionary. And so while we may see a dip in visitors internationally, we're not seeing a dip in visitors. Those families are still coming. Everyone who has to live near New York City still wants to come to the Cape to get away from each other together. Bless them. Labor force challenges. So this was a question that came up. Who wants to throw out some ideas of the labor force challenges we're facing? Go for it. There's no wrong answers. This table's going with housing. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, what's that from like 7 or 8 years ago? The rent is too high. Infrastructure, childcare. One of the things that came up was brain drain. God, I picked a lot of stuff that you guys cannot see. I'm sorry. We have an economic development dashboard, and I picked this on because it demonstrates where change happens. So the change from 2019 to 2024 is over in this last column, and I put this right at the top. This is business and financial operations. Below that, life sciences and social sciences, management, sales, retail, architecture, engineering, computer, manufacturing. I think this, where we see the growth happening, negates the idea that there's a movement of educated and career-focused individuals off of the Cape. So that's the sort of brain drain hypothesis that maybe part of our struggle in labor forces, trained, educated folks leaving. They're not. They're here. Our labor force, on the other hand, folks that are in physical labor, about 50% of our labor force, specifically, not every industry, transcommute from other counties to Barnstable. So if you're a truck driver, if you're a digger, if you're an electrician or carpenter, 50-50 are coming over a bridge to get to work. Why? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's expensive to live here. Blue line is Barnstable. Housing. So we've got Barnstable County, Plymouth County, Massachusetts as a whole, and the country as a whole. This table, ding, ding, ding. It's really expensive to live here. It's unaffordable to get a home. A household income minimum to purchase a home on Cape Cod now is over $200,000 annual. How many couples do you know that are making $200,000 that want to move here? It's really not a common outcome. We have new neighbors on our little street who found a house on Cape Cod that was more affordable than Vermont. That's it. We're only less expensive than Vermont. That's it. So it's a huge, huge barrier, right? I think we all knew that. We're doing all right in transportation. We're doing okay on utilities. Yeah. Our grocery bills are kind of high. That's a great question. Miscellaneous in this one is probably things like childcare, right? I don't think that falls under health. And this is probably also things like subscriptions. Like if you think of any kind of household bill, so it'll be your Netflix, it'll be your phone bill, it'll be things like that that don't count as utility. I can find out the exact answer if we have the data. So what's hampering housing? This is another audience participation piece. What do you think? We talked about the price. Oh, the Z word. Yeah. So I don't think that there's one piece of this, and I'm not a housing or development expert, but I think we can all see there's zoning issues, right? For a lot of folks, there was a huge, huge migration in 2020, right? Most of Massachusetts saw a dip in population except for 3 counties, and they're all sticking in the ocean, right? Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket are swamped. Folks that were seasonal are now full-time. Folks that have second or third homes on the Cape made it their primary. They're still here because they can work remote. And I can make that go buzz anytime I want. This is the other piece, climate change. There is a lot of housing associated costs with climate change as well. When we talk about insurance, oh, the people that nodded, oh, I'm so sorry that you're the ones in charge of the bills at home. Housing insurance, homeowners insurance is going to go up if it hasn't already for you, because if you don't know, you will soon. And I'm trying to learn the numbers, but Barnstable County already has some insurances at the county level for homeowners insurance, but we are still the, I think, 3rd most uninsured county in the country. And the other 2 counties are both in California. They're both in California, and they've both been ravaged by fires recently. It's not looking great for us in the flood insurance market. So there's an opportunity here for the county to come together on insurability and affordability. This is a result of the insurance industry recognizing climate change as a risk. Recognizing that if we ever name another Storm Bob, he's gonna come here, right? Recognizing that every time we have a storm surge, the tides get higher and higher. There are incredible stories of people that have started using boat paint in their cellars and basements so that when it floods, not if, when, on a regular basis, nothing will be damaged. That's wild. Can you imagine? You go into your basement to do your laundry or whatever, and there's just, you gotta put your boat shoes on, swashbuckling, put your pirate hat on, I don't know. But there's drainage holes, right? There are some incredible videos, especially in Eastham, of the shore just getting closer and closer and closer and closer. You look at time capsules from like the 90s. and now the cliff is right at their porch door on the back. That's some scary, scary stuff, right? And so the insurance industry see that as a risk. And so now we have an opportunity in the blue economy, but also in the Capes economy to start talking about that, come together, find solutions. This could be a commercial solution. This could be a policy solution. There's lots of different avenues. In addition, and I'm just scare you guys about climate change, but there are opportunities, like I said. There are also challenges. Chose this picture from the Fishermen's Alliance. Have any of you ever sat and listened to a fisherman complain? It's really good. Storytelling is really extraordinary. If you ever, I'm going to plug it, if you ever get a chance to go to one of the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance Meet the Fleet events, they are really eye-opening. They're really stellar talks. Fishermen know how to tell stories. They're so good at it. And one of the stories that keeps coming out over and over again is that what's in the water is changing. The fish that were here before are further north. The fish that were further south are here. And that's hard because, like everything else, the fishing industry is systematized. There are fishermen who have permits to fish one kind of fish. That's all they can sell. And when that fish decides to go north, either they have to go north or they have to get a new permit, and there are no permits available. Because some permits for some fish are handed down generation to generation. Because every town only has so many. Because there are protection acts in place, right? Or the Fishermen's Alliance have permit sharing models. So when you're seeing things on the menu like skate or dogfish, it's because there was a permit available for a new kind of fish, and that's what's out there now. Lobster, you cannot collect lobster now off the coast of Connecticut. They're not there. They're here. And in another generation, you got to go to Maine at the minimum, okay? And so it's really, really incredible how much is going on under the water that we can't see. This is impacting our tourism economy too, because what's getting more and more expensive? A lobster dinner. Who's paying for that? Alberto's is not going to pay for that, right? You're going to pay for it at the table. And so again, another opportunity to market dogfish, right? So every single challenge has opportunity. And honestly, if you can get the Fisherman's Peasant Stew, it is dogfish, it is delightful, right? And so there are opportunities here to change the script, to change the narrative. Change the name from dogfish. They already changed it once. I think it was called dog shark. Because it is a kind of shark. It's the kind of shark that you get to pet at the aquarium. You know those little ones? Another opportunity in the blue economy, marine life. How many of you know, this is my fun blue economy fact, there's a dolphin hospital on Main Street, Orleans. Say that louder. Who said what? What? No? What? Who? What? Did you know that? It's the only dolphin hospital in the world. And it is on Main Street, Orleans, Cape Cod, next to the kids' thrift store. What? Why? Because from Orleans to Wellfleet on the bay side sees more dolphin strandings than anywhere else in the world.
Why is that?
Because the ocean is shaped like a big scoop and the dolphins get stuck. That's it. Just the shape that was made 22 million years ago by an iceberg that got tired and landed here. And it's literally it. So because of our geography, because of changing climate, the waters are warmer, the dolphins go further north. While they're really fun and cute to see on a boat, we have a volunteer corps dedicated to saving dolphins, putting them back in the water, they learned, and I think this is really neat, a dolphin that is traumatized, whether it be a collision with a boat, whether it be old age, or stunned from cold water, they take them to the hospital, which is basically just 2 above ground pools and a lot of doctors, and they will rehabilitate them and then take them back out. The reason this works, previously they thought that dolphins would only be reintegrated into their original pod, quite like orca, like killer whales, will only go into their original pod. There's a lot of like alpha mama stuff going on. Dolphins, as long as it's the same species, they will integrate into any pod. They're like, oh, cool, we're dolphins. So they're not as picky as we are. And so they can take a sick dolphin, rehabilitate it, and reintroduce it to any other pod, which is why we have a hospital for dolphins on Baby Island. How cool is that? And now you know. We also see hundreds of cold stunned turtles, right? If you don't have the hotline saved in your phone, I suggest you look up the turtle hotline, save it in your phone. I should have brought it for you. I have a magnet on my fridge. If you're ever walking along any of the beaches of the bay and you see a turtle, you call the hotline. Someone comes running out of their house because they're part of the volunteer corps. They live on the beach, and they take the turtle to, there's like 3 or 4 different locations, one in Bourne. Most of them end up in Quincy under the care of the New England Aquarium. And simply, they are reptiles, right? So they are slowly warmed back up enough to wake up and go back into the water. Last fall into winter, I believe just the New England Aquarium alone saw something like 700 cold stunned turtles. That's a lot of turtles because they're getting stuck in the bay again. Yeah. Anytime you go to the aquarium, you're paying a ticket price that is funding an initiative like that. IFA, International Fund for Wildlife, are the organization that run the animal hospital, and so they're an international fundraising organization. So it's philanthropy. Yeah. Climate change and ecotourism. Sharks. Mentioned this a little bit. Have any of you been on a shark tour? Have any of you seen Shark Week? Oh, okay. Shark Week's been going on for a really long time. We have a really long and colorful history with our relationship with sharks, going all the way back 50 years with Jaws, right? Martha's Vineyard, for about 48 years, refused to acknowledge that Jaws was filmed there. They got into the 50th celebration, it turns out. But it took them a while to warm up to it. What's happening is we are able to tag and study Atlantic white sharks a lot more now because there are a lot more here, and because we have some really incredible scientists dedicated to understanding these incredible creatures, and have developed the skills and technology to actually track them. So the Sharktivity app, you can pick your favorite shark and follow them around like Pokemon. But the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and groups like the Whale and Dolphin Preservation, a few others, do a lot to understand, educate, and make people aware of the dangers and threats of sharks, but also our threat to that species, their importance to our ecology and economy. And the shark tour industry has boomed. 2018, there was an attack, and someone died by a shark. And the Cape Cod Chamber, the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, and the National Seashore tandem together, the 3, to launch a beach-centered, tourism-focused education campaign. So now when you go to the beach, there are these big yellow signs. Those were put up, but that summer and beyond, there were also folks, scientists, researchers, and volunteers out on the beach, educating people one-on-one on the dangers and the importance of these species. And it turned everything around. People are interested now. There are sweatshirts that say respect the locals with a shark on it, right? We've embraced some of that culture. And as a result now, you can book a shark tour. You can do a group tour, private tour. You can go on like you would a whale watch and buy individual tickets. And they have become synonymous with Cape Cod. So if you tell someone where you're from and they look at you funny, instead of saying Boston, say where the sharks are. They'll get there. And it's just one example of turning a threat into an incredible opportunity by tying the experience to education and to our land and our space. And I think they're just a really great example. We talked a little bit about insurance already. Anyone else finding climate change affecting how often they get to water their lawn and things like that, how hot it is?
There was a big drought.
Everywhere, huge droughts, yeah. My neighbor across the street is very proud of his lawn, and he had a really rough summer because my front lawn is in the shade and it's green, and his was not. So it's causing neighborhood strife as well. And there's other, there's things like access to clean water, heat. Not everywhere has air conditioning. We're getting there. This is just a question to everyone about thinking about adaptation. When we talk about climate change, we talk a lot about changing. I keep using this phrase of changing a threat into an opportunity. How are we doing that? Open-ended. And then there are bridges, which get cut off on the slide. Okay, that's fine. There's a bridge. Yay. I'll leave it at that. So how much time do we have? None. Questions? Ideas?
Speaking of bridges.
Oh, we'll go to her first, and then we'll talk about bridges, because that'll be it.
Well, you just touched on lawns. Lawns, and my husband and I go back and forth on this. My brother's from Arizona, and what drove him crazy about Arizona is that they were trying to have lawns. The 1950 little perfectly, grass, whatever kind of grass lawns that never belonged there. They're that kind of
in the desert.
Yeah, it's a desert. And so there was a big push, and I think it's continuing, hopefully, in Arizona to continue building lawns with indigenous plants and the species that should be there, not unlike what they're doing with the Western Plains of Kansas. So with all the regular indigenous grasses and everything that were there billions of years ago. And I'm wondering why, I wish I ride around Cape Cod, I see these beautifully cured, pristine lawns and think, we can't do that anymore. We have to bring back whatever's indigenous and let it just grow. You could cure it the way you wanted to, but if it was an indigenous plant, it would be so helpful to the environment in general. And probably a lot less fertilizer.
I'm not a lawn expert, or I'm kind of like a slowly getting better at being a plant mom kind of mom, but not great. The Cape has a long history of destroying itself. We've been deforested like 3 times over the history of well, originally I think it was because we thought we could raise cattle, which is like a wild idea, and then to harvest salt and things like that. Yeah, salt was a big one. So we've got a like really incredibly torturous relationship with the land here. We're all pretty much white here, right? It's like the white culture and the land don't really go hand in hand very well. So I think there is a lot of culture in what you're talking about that needs to be challenged, for sure. You want to talk about bridges?
Bridges. We've never seen published where the new bridges are going to be. You know?
They are published through the Mass DOT, Department of Transportation. They are civil engineer drawings. They look like spaghetti. But currently there is no money or agreed upon plan for Bourne Bridge replacement, but there is for Sagamore. And so if you know where the Oshkosh Bagosh used to be, for the Burlington Coat, so where the Market Basket is, there's a little strip mall next to it. That will be the Cape side launch for the second bridge,
The Sagamore Bridge.
Sagamore. Yep.
Okay.
So
The
if
Bourne has not been replanned.
we don't, right, correct.
Okay.
And it's gossip if I were to tell you what I heard and think where the other one will go, because I don't, it's not official. But the Sagamore Bridge replacement project is published through Mass DOT, and there is a coalition, the Cape and Islands Bridge Coalition, the Chamber Houses is founded, and it is an advocacy organization, a fundraising organization to raise local funds to support businesses that will be impacted during construction. In particular, tourism. If people are already calling it the next big dig, we're in trouble. So we're investing a lot in communication around access to the Cape for businesses and for visitors, because I think people are going to think that it's going to be an incredibly intrusive construction project. It will be a long construction project. And part of the reason it's going to be a long construction project is so that it is not completely destructive. The other piece of it is that if we don't, this is my little soapbox, if we don't start replacing the bridges, we will get to a point very, very soon, within years, single digit, where a bridge will have to be completely shut for structural repair. And if you remember a couple of years ago, when the Bourne Bridge or the Sagamore Bridge had to be closed for a little bit, and how much traffic and distress that caused, to have a bridge shut completely for upwards of 6 months would be extraordinarily disruptive. Tens of millions of dollars worth of loss in that. So it is but it is published. Mass DOT have public records. And there are regular public updates. My recommendation would be to go to Mass DOT's government website and sign up for their email alerts.
When's the money going?
We have some, and we're going to keep fighting for the rest, and we're lobbying. And that's where the Cape and Bridges Coalition's function is, to raise funds and to lobby for funds. We have state, we have private, we had federal. We might be paying tolls. So we've been promised federal funds, but we've never, there's no flow of funds yet. So that always takes years and years.
The federal highway, even though it's owned by the Corps of Engineers, funds will be cut back throughout the country.
Yes.
And we are in Massachusetts.
Yes. Correct.
What's the, does the chamber have a position on the offshore wind farms and the potential impact environmentally?
So the, speaking from the Cape Cod Chamber perspective, we have had relations with the offshore wind companies as members. This is a business organization. I, through the Blue Economy Foundation, was very proud to be able to put some of those representatives on stage with some of our local associations, especially the fishermen. Offshore wind production of the actual energy, and this is really sensitive to say after a second blade has come down, is incredibly valuable, but it is not the only renewable source of energy, right? The more controversial now is starting to talk about battery centers, things like that to store energy. The offshore wind industry has had a very long and difficult relationship with residents of this area from at least 20 years ago, at least as far as I can remember. So one of the positions and one of the things that the chamber has stated and that our CEO has stated is that offshore wind is viable, but the process at the state level, the federal level, and through the companies needs to be examined and reformed. There are a lot of permits and a lot of points of progression that are complicated And if you've ever seen a permitting graph for an offshore wind turbine, it is one of those legal sheets of paper with like 0.6 font. The amount of hurdles that that company would have to go through to get anywhere is extraordinary. But where they're lacking, in my opinion and in my experience, is in communication with the people who will both benefit and potentially be impacted by such construction, right? So I think it's a very complicated one.
But environmentally.
Environmentally is a net good. Yes. Yes. There's a lot of storytelling, for sure, around impacts of different species in the water, of birds, things like that, that every single offshore wind or renewable, even for solar, they all employ biologists, marine biologists, ecologists. None of them are doing anything without, like I said, very detailed permitting. Whales, don't go near them.
Substations
On land,
on land.
we have so many of those already.
Over our sole source.
We have some of those already. Yeah. So is it better or worse than the energy production that we have existing already on land? That's my challenge. Maybe none of it's good, right? I don't know. But I think there are definitely having renewable energy sources that don't rely on fossil fuels is a net good.
Can you say anything about the sources of fresh water that have been discovered undersea off of the coast of the Cape?
No, I can't, but it sounds like something I'm going to look up later. So in case you didn't hear, there's sources of fresh water under, like deep sea. Ooh, where? Cool. No, I don't know that. I learn new stuff every single day. I have no idea. And how would you, so the question is, why is it there? Who is it benefiting as far as species? Should we touch it? We probably will, even though we maybe shouldn't. We're really good at that as humans. Oh, anyone seen a horror film where the opening scene is they just sort of touch the blob? What were you thinking? It's like the most human thing to touch things we're not supposed to. Any other fun facts that I need to look up later? Are you sure? Okay. You want to ask another question?
One more question. Can you talk a little bit about the labor needs for this blue economy, and in particular in connection with a lot of the residents are retirees and highly educated? Can you use any of these people here?
Can we use the retired people? Heck yeah. Of course. Like I said, I went to Four Seas for a year. It was the best thing I'd ever done. And every one of my teachers or professors was someone extraordinary who was retired. No one retires. You just go do something else, right? And a lot of my excitement for learning came from those people. So absolutely. And this club is a really extraordinary example of benefiting the next generation. When it comes to job placement, that's really complicated, right? That process. We invest so much in young people and inspiration that is unmeasurable, right? But the impact is there because you can all think of someone in your life that gave you a spark, right? You can't measure that, but it's there, and you can be that. Anyone here can be that spark for someone else, and that is invaluable. Of course. Can we get you a paycheck?
Depends, because there are so many organizations, small companies, small nonprofits that can maybe only afford to hire someone part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 10, 15, 20 hours of your week that you're willing to work for one of those organizations and can afford to sort of basically fund that, then yeah, there's.
Yep.
So,
I'll hand it back over. I think that's it. Any other questions? Good.
Thank you.
Do you want the microphone?
Oh, for the project. Well, take the microphone. Certainly would like to thank you, and we certainly know what the ocean is like and the ponds. But I think we've gotten a very good education, more extensible education, more in depth of what that involves for the Cape and for all of us. And I really appreciate your coming to talk to us. And as is our habit, we present you with a pair of MIT Club of Cape Cod stemless wine glasses.
Oh, thank you.
Perhaps you can share them.
Yes, we'll use them in the office. Yeah, there you go.
And just